you noticed a lot of my inspirational talks or sermons or homilies, a lot of them I draw from my own personal experiences. So I just wanted to share something with you today. I recently went to my own doctor, and we were talking about situations, and he goes, John, your A1C is fine, all of this, your blood pressure is fine. And I said, yeah, but Dr. Chung, I have, these other situations going on. And he goes, well, we're just going to chalk those up to age-related nuisances. And you know what goes along with those age-related nuisances are when you turn 50, what happens? You get an application to double ARP. When you turn 60, all of a sudden the ads start coming in the mail for hearing aids. And it doesn't stop. So I don't know how they figure out when it's time to do this, but I know that lately my hearing hasn't been all the best, and neither has my memory. So if later on when I do messages for you and I say I come to you, and if I know you, but if I can't put your name to the face, just kick me or just say, yeah, this is my name, okay? So anyways, a couple weeks ago, Dan and I were watching the news, and suddenly Dan points out that President Biden had a dirty forehead. So I looked at it, and indeed it was this big black thing on his forehead. And then I remembered it was Ash Wednesday. So being that Biden is Roman Catholic, it was actually obvious that he would partake in that ancient ritual. And as a point of information, Ash Wednesday is practiced by many Christian denominations, including Episcopal, Methodist, Lutheran, etc. And as ashes are imposed, the words spoken are, remember that you are dust, and to dust you shall return. When I first became a spiritualist, I wondered why this act of humility was not practiced in spiritualism. Rather than just a Christian ceremony, it actually seems more appropriate as a reminder to us spiritualists that this corporal vessel is only temporary, as it contains our true self, our spirit. And as I've said many times in the past, we are simply stardust. I recently read a book called The Song of Achilles. And the writer goes through this kind of like a historical novel about what happens during Achilles' life and the conflict against Troy. And Achilles has this long-term partner, a male partner. And the male partner dies before Achilles does. And what I found was interesting, and this was the belief of the ancient Greeks, was that if the body did not get burned, the soul of that body remains on the earth plane rather than going to the underworld. So there was this conflict about one partner not being cremated while Achilles was. And at the end, the partner was cremated, and the explanation was these two souls, you could feel their hands holding one another as they traveled to the underworld together. Now, the Greeks believed in the underworld, the Romans did too. We believe something like that, except we don't call it the underworld. We call it, some people call it the Summerland, Anyways, the imposition of ashes has been going on year after year for many centuries. And in a lot of cultures and religions, it's become a traditional ceremony, something people look forward to every year without change, and without variation. It kind of reminds me of the tradition of watching our favorite movie or TV show. So who here has seen The Wizard of Oz at least 10 times? And you know, when it comes on for the 11th or the 12th time, you're right there to watch it again, right? How often have we watched The Golden Girls? Incredible, huh? Keeping Up Appearances, MASH, episode after episode, and we've seen it multiple times, and we laugh at the same one over and over again. Why do we look forward to watching or participating in the same thing? Sometimes every year for 20, 30, 40, or 50 years. In my family church, the rituals and ceremonies were the same every year, and we couldn't wait for the next year. Music was an integral part of that. And we know even during the holidays, how many times have we listened to Bing Crosby and White Christmas? I mean, it just goes every year. And I know you can name all these other songs that we hear continuously year after, but yet we look forward to them because it's comforting to us. In my past Catholic tradition, I look forward to midnight mass. Not only did I participate in it, but I sang in the choir, so I was familiar with all the songs. 40-hour devotions, singing Vespers for 3 days in a row. We would sing a particular Vespers by Stern, and then we did a Mozart Magnificat, which was originally written for a Gloria. And I look forward to that year after year. Dan will tell you he's been to many of those ceremonies in that particular church, and even though he couldn't understand a word that was spoken, whether it was Latin or Polish, the music was phenomenal. And we look forward to that year after year. I guess people like familiarity and tend to migrate towards it. And you know, here at TNSA, we do have our familiar rituals. Of course, they're not as elaborate as others, but still the same. They're our rituals. They may include monthly psychic fairs and development circles, spiritual healing events. And you know, before COVID, I started with events we had hoped would continue from year to year. And they did until COVID. And now we're starting all over again. One of those events was winter solstice. Every year we would have an event here celebrating the bringing in of light. And then we would have messages for the whole group that attended. And every year people look forward to that. One personal ritual that you may come across this time of year is the act of sacrificing or giving up something you may really, really enjoy. The purpose is to create suffering. So we have Judeo-Christians who look forward to suffering, while the Buddhists and others in Eastern philosophies are trying to alleviate suffering. I never understood the reasoning. Why would anyone want to create personal suffering? But what exactly is their idea of suffering? Is giving up candy, coffee, or other vices truly suffering? If you forego a friendly Sunday for 6 weeks, is that suffering? If you refuse your nightly glass of wine for 6 weeks, Is that suffering? I'll tell you what I think suffering is. Going to bed without food for the entire day. Giving up your life-saving medication in order to eat something. Or to pay your rent and utility bills. Watching your spouse or child or even your beloved pet slowly die before your eyes, and there's nothing you can do. That's suffering. If you have to desire to really see what suffering is, take a trip to India, or areas of Africa, or even the Middle East. It won't be long before you encounter gut-wrenching suffering, where humanity has sunk to its absolute lowest level. And yet, we have to ask, do we have that kind of suffering here? Think about it. Much of our suffering here in this country is hidden, not in the open. Physical abuse of children, sexual abuse, indentured servitude, otherwise known as slavery. And yes, it happens today. So, during this season of giving up something, give up that day at the spa and spend an afternoon at a nursing home instead. Volunteer in a hospital or care center. Help build a home like President Carter with Habitat for Humanity. Yes, I know people donate money to charities, but I think that's the easy way out. You know, people have their opinions about Mother Teresa of Calcutta. But good or bad, she could have remained with her well-to-do family and simply donated money to worthwhile causes. But she chose differently. She chose to give up her life at home and dedicate it to helping the poorest of the poor in India. She didn't take the easy way. She took the hard way. Maybe we all need to be a bit more like Mother Teresa. Maybe we would find the hard way more personally rewarding. And of course, it's infinitely more rewarding to those we help. So the easy way is not always the best way. And I leave you all with food for thought during this season. God bless you all. I just wanted to say one thing about Tabor Thompson and these courses that we're presenting. There's 7 courses. The first one is Spiritualism. The second one is a course on talking about our little blue book called Becoming a Spiritualist. And then we do a course on spiritual healing. And then there's a course on meditation presented by Reverend Andrea. And then lastly, there are 3 courses involved in mediumship. So the first one is mental mediumship. The second one is physical mediumship. And then the third one is we all get together and we actually do a circle. So I look forward to people who are applying for that. If you want to be a certified healer or certified medium, you need to go through those courses. You know, many of us come across mediums who will say, I'm a medium or I'm a psychic. And I often say to them, oh yeah, who told you that? You know, who says you're a medium? And they don't know how to answer that. Well, here, you're dealing with an organization that's over 100 years old. And that's what backs up your certification to be either a healer or a medium. So if anybody asks you that question and you're a certified medium through us here, You say, I'm certified through the National Spiritual Alliance, an organization that's been around for 110 years. So that's why we present these courses. I hope some of you will consider becoming certified, because we all have that ability. Don't let anybody tell you that you don't. We have mediums out there that say, oh no, you know, we're born with this ability. No. We all have that ability to communicate with folks on the other side. We all have that ability to be channels for healing. Some of us need to be trained a little more than others, but we all have that ability. So that's my talk for today, and I hope I see you guys in class soon. Thank you.